Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Love Against the Throne. Episode 19. Chapter 92. Cassius's POV. I fell asleep with my beautiful mate in my arms after we made love. My dreams were happy as I ran around the field of daisies with my pups. I was laughing and chasing them as they giggled. It was a picture-perfect place. I never wanted to leave. Then I heard someone urgently calling my name, and the dream faded as I opened my eyes. Gemma was struggling to get out of my arms while calling my name. I released her and watched her struggle to get out of bed. "Damn it, I am about to piss myself," she growled as her belly was hindering her efforts to get out of the bed. She looked like an overturned turtle flailing her arms and legs. I had to stifle laughter as I got out of bed to help her up. I picked her up, and she didn't thank me but ran past me into the bathroom. Then I heard her express relief. I laughed as I sat on the bed. "It's not funny, Cassius," I heard her snarl as the toilet flushed. I couldn't help it and kept laughing. I looked up to see my angry mate glaring at me from the bathroom door. "I am so sorry, love," I said between laughs. She growled and waddled back to her side of the bed and lay down. I turned to her. "Do you feel better now?" She had her arms folded as tears were welling up in her eyes. "No, my mate is laughing at me," she sniffled. I leaned towards her. "Love, I am not laughing at you. You just looked adorable trying to get out of bed." She rolled her eyes at me. "I am not adorable. I am a big old useless whale." I stroked her belly and felt the twins wake up and start kicking. That only made Gemma growl. "Oh, now they are going to be awake all night. Good going." I sighed and hung my head as I removed my hand from her. "How can I make it up to you?" I leaned towards her to kiss her, but she pulled away from me, causing Enoch to whimper in my head. She was still glaring at me. "Well, since I won't be sleeping any time soon, I could use some food." She fluttered her pretty little eyes at me. "I am at your service, my queen." I smiled at her in an attempt to get her to stop glaring. "I am craving a peanut butter and pickle sandwich with mayo." My face wrinkled at her request. She had been requesting that awful concoction almost every night. And since I didn't want to bother the kitchen staff, I ended up making it myself, and it made me gag. But my very pregnant mate loved it. "Please, Cassie." She was finally smiling at me. I sighed. "All right, love," I said to her as I leaned in to kiss her pouty lips. She softened as the sparks ignited between us. "The kitchen is downstairs and to the left of the common room." She pulled back from me. "Hurry up." She patted my arm. Sighing, I got out of bed and pulled on a pair of shorts and a tank top. I walked out of her room into the dark hallway of the Zephyr Moon Pack house. "We are so whipped," Enoch grumbled in my head. "No, Sherlock," I replied to him. Down the stairs and into the kitchen. There was a light on over the large stove as I looked around the kitchen. It was a different setup than the one back at the palace. I found what looked like a pantry and opened it. I was happy to see both bread and peanut butter. I opened one of the large fridges, and luckily I found both pickles slices and mayo. I set the ingredients on the counter, found a plate and some utensils, and started making the sandwich. I cringed as I spread mayo onto the bread. A familiar scent hit my senses as someone walked into the kitchen behind me. Then a male laugh made me turn. My father-in-law stood a few feet away, wearing only shorts. He was an imposing alpha male, fitting the legend that surrounded him. Late-night cravings. He snorted as he looked at the ingredients. He laughed and sat on a stool by a counter. Yeah, I was a bad mate and laughed at her. Phil cringed. Bad move, son. Tell me about it. She looked like an overturned turtle trying to get out of bed to go to the bathroom, and I laughed. Phil snorted. And you are still alive, he folded his arms. My Gemma has gone soft. She looks so adorable, philosophy. He rolled his eyes as I was spreading peanut butter on the bread. Phil looked at the sandwich. Like mother, like daughter, he remarked as he took a pickle out of the jar and popped it into his mouth. Melinda used to crave the same thing when she was pregnant with Gemma and Ian. I laughed at the thought as I placed plenty of pickles on the sandwich. It's so gross, though. Yeah. Phil snorted. Though I wish I had a camera right now. The king of werewolves up at 3 am, making a sandwich for his mate. You are so whipped. He made the whip sound. I turned and glared at him as he laughed. I finished the sandwich and grabbed a can of Sprite from the fridge. Hilarious, I mumbled. It is. I mean, I know my daughter is feisty. But man. I picked up the plate with Gemma's sandwich and the can of pop. On your knees, Phil, I said to my father-in-law in my king tone. He growled lowly as he dropped to his knees. Even the most powerful alphas could not resist my orders. Good night, philosophy. You are not going to make me stay like this, are you? Phil growled at me. I shrugged my shoulders as I started walking out of the kitchen. That depends. Gemma won't like it. My shoulders slumped. Stand up, Phil, I said in my tone, and he rose to his feet. I laughed. Good night, I said again and then left the kitchen. I heard Phil laughing as I walked through the common room to the stairs. Cassius, where is my sandwich? Gemma's impatient voice growled through our mind link. I am almost there, love. I replied to her. Was I whipped? Yes, you are whipped, Enoch snorted. I reached the room and opened it. Gemma was sitting up in bed, watching as I walked in. She licked her lips in anticipation of the sandwich. I handed her the plate and set the can of soda on the table beside the bed. I cringed as she happily bit into it. You did a good job, babe. She said with her mouth full. I nodded as I walked into the bathroom to relieve myself. After I was done, I walked back into the room, and she was almost done with the sandwich. Slow down. You don't want to choke, love. I said to her. I sat on the bed. But it's so good, and I am starving. She responded as she licked mayo from her fingers. Who knew the king of werewolves was good at making sandwiches? It came as a shock to me too, I laughed. My poor pups are being subjected to that frightening concoction. She rolled her eyes. They can't taste it. But if they could, they would love it. I lay down across the bed, resting my head next to her large belly. I kissed her soft skin and felt kicks. I looked up at her, and she was done with the sandwich and drinking her soda. I closed my eyes for a moment and then felt a strong kick on my cheek. I rubbed my face. Ouch! She laughed at my pain. I think that was Malcolm. Kicking Daddy isn't nice, Malcolm, I said against her belly. Well, your big head is squishing them together. I sat up and looked at her. She had a naughty expression on her face. I leaned down to kiss her. Her breath smelled like pickles and peanut butter. I pulled back. Your breath stinks. She pouted. I'm sorry. I kissed her despite the stink. Let's go back to sleep, I said quietly. She complied and snuggled down into the bed, and I hovered over her placing light kisses down her body. I kissed her belly, only to be kicked again. Our pups are feisty. She laughed. Well, they are your offspring, I said as I kissed my way back up her belly. I lightly nibbled her mark and felt her shudder and gasp. She wrapped her arms around my neck as I brought my lips to hers. The fire between us ignited. We devoured each other's lips as I felt myself getting harder. In me, now? She demanded as her violet eyes stared into mine. Are you sure? I smirked at her. I groaned happily. I guess that's a yes. I lay on the bed beside her, and she positioned herself. She then lay her cheek against my chest. I watched as her eyes slowly closed again. Sleep well, my queen, I whispered to her. I closed my eyes and fell asleep to my mate sleeping on my chest. Hours later, the sunlight streamed through the thick curtains over the large window. Gemma was already trying to get out of bed and whining. Cassie, she looked at me with pleading eyes. I sighed and got to help her. She still looked like a flailing turtle. I picked her up and set her on the ground, and she quickly ran into the bathroom. I sighed and sat on the bed. I then heard the shower turn on and smirked as I stood up and ran into the bathroom. The shower was smaller than the one in our room at the palace, but it still sufficed for what I wanted to do to her. 20 minutes later, we emerged through the steam. I helped her dry off, and we walked out of the bathroom into the closet where our luggage was. She rummaged through and chose one of her new dresses. It was a light blue with tiny flowers on the hem. It hung down to her knees. She slipped on some sandals, and then she put her blonde hair into a ponytail. I put on a pair of blue jeans and a black button-up shirt. She smiled as I got dressed. Does my queen approve of my outfit? She nodded. Yes, my king. She started out of the closet and swatted her butt. I am going to go get Nikki from my brother's room. I'll meet you downstairs. Okay, love, I responded to her as she walked out of her room. I finished getting dressed and then walked out of the room. I heard Gemma talking to her twin as Nick giggled. My son ran out of his uncle's room and saw me. Hey, buddy, I said to him as he ran over to me. Daddy. He squealed as I scooped him up into my arms. Thanks again for watching him, Ian. She said to her brother. Ian was standing in the doorway of his room dressed in shorts and a tank top. We need to soundproof the other rooms in this house. He mumbled, and I smirked at him. Oh, I'm sorry. Did we keep you up? He folded his arms and glared at me. Shut up! He snarled and closed the door. I laughed as Gemma walked over to me. I think your brother heard us. She shrugged. Wouldn't be the first time he heard me with someone. That only made me growl. Right, I grumbled. I'm not the first guy you've had in that bed. I turned away from her and started towards the stairs. Phil and Melinda were emerging from their room arm in arm. They smiled at me. Good morning, Gemma, Cassius, Luna. Melinda greeted us. She tickled Nick's back. Good morning, Nicky. Hi, Grandma. He replied to her. Did you two get any sleep last night? Phil asked us. Gemma smiled at her father. Yes, Dad. Gemma, are you wearing a dress? Melinda asked her daughter. Yes, Mom, she replied. Melinda laughed and looked at Phil. It's a miracle, Philip. Mom, I am only wearing them while I am pregnant. They are more comfortable. Sure, Gemma. The Luna said as we went down the stairs. We got to the bottom of the stairs, and I set Nick on the ground. He ran over to the couch in the common room where Gemma's younger sister Tiffany was sitting by herself. Hi Auntie Tiffy, Nick said to her. She hugged him but looked sad. What's wrong, Tiff? Gemma said as she sat beside her sister. I can't smell my mate. I got up early to see if I could smell him, and well, she glanced between Gemma and I. Certain royal couples were a little loud. Gemma snorted. Sorry. Anyways, I can't smell him yet. Luna. Melinda sat on the other side of her younger daughter. Tiffany, sweetie, perhaps your mate isn't in our pack. I bet you find him when you go to the palace for Luna classes. She said to reassure her daughter. Yeah, there are a lot of unmated young alphas, still, I said to her. Phil growled behind me. He didn't like the sound of his youngest daughter getting a mate. Melinda glared at him. Philip, she is old enough to find her mate. Phil sighed. I know, Melinda. But I'm just not ready. Daddy, I'm ready, though, Tiffany said to her father. Ian joined us a moment later with Esther beside him. What's going on? Tiffany hasn't smelled her mate yet, Gemma said to her twin. Oh, Ian responded. Melinda stood up from the couch. Come on, everyone, let's go get breakfast. I can hear everyone's stomach rumbling. And then we have to finish getting everything ready for Tiffany's party, she said while helping Gemma stand up from the couch. We entered the dining room, and the pack members were sitting at the table already eating. It wasn't as formal here like in the palace. They did stop eating as we walked in. They started to get up. No, that isn't necessary. Keep eating, I said to them. They looked at their alpha. You heard the king. Keep eating, Alpha Philip added. They went back to eating as we took our seats. Well, the food is over there. Phil pointed to buffets filled with food. Help yourselves. Gemma started to get up from her chair. Love, stay there. I'll get you a plate. I smiled at her. Phil made the whipping noise as I walked over to the buffet. I turned to glare at him. Don't make me put you on your knees again, Alpha. I laughed at the confused looks on my mate and his mate. What is he talking about, Dad? I heard Gemma ask him. I filled a plate with eggs, sausage, and meat with some toast, took it back to the table and set it in front of Gemma. Would you like juice also? I asked her as she didn't hesitate to dig into the food. She nodded. I went back to the buffet and got her some juice. Once she was happy, I filled up a plate with waffles and bacon for Nick. Look how domestic you are since you found your mate, Cass, Zion said beside me as I was finally filling up my plate. I looked at the new beta of Zephyr Moon. Is that a problem, beta? He snorted. No, it's just a refreshing sight, he laughed. I had known Zion as long as I had known Deke. We all grew up together, so I saw him as a brother, just like Deke. I was glad he fitted into this new pack well. He was just as strong a warrior as his older brother. I sat beside my mate as she was stuffing her face. Gemma, would you be willing to help me set up Tiffany's party? Melinda asked her. Gemma nodded. Sure, Mom. The Luna snorted. Wearing dresses, willing to decorate. What have you done to my rebellious child, Cassius? I shrugged. Nothing. Mom, I am still the same, Gemma said to her mother. Melinda laughed. It's a refreshing change. I haven't changed that much, have I? Gemma looked at her siblings. Ian cleared his throat. Well, I haven't seen you wearing any of your band shirts in a long time. Or wearing a lot of black. Well, Cassius threw away most of my shirts. Gemma looked at me. Why did he do that? Tiffany asked her sister. Gemma gave me a look. He didn't think they were suitable for a queen to wear. I made a mistake, I mumbled. Some of those were my old shirts, Cassius. Phil joined in. They are hard to replace. I hung my head. I hated that the Mackenzie clan was ganging up on me. I held up a hand. I'm sorry. Gemma patted my hand. It's all right. I have been slowly replacing some of them. I just can't wear them right now because of she leaned back to indicate her stomach. Well, after the twins are born, you can go back to dressing how you want, love. I smiled at her. So, have you two thought of names for those pups of yours yet? Melinda asked us. Yes, Mom. We have. But we won't reveal them until they are born. Come on, Gemma. Melinda goaded her daughter. Gemma sighed. We haven't told Cassius's parents either. You did tell my sister, though. I reminded her. Melinda narrowed her eyes at Gemma. Please tell us. I want to make them blankets with their names on it. Gemma looked at me. What do you think? It's up to you, love. But we will have to tell my parents. Okay, Gemma patted my hand. The girl pup will be Daisy, and the boy pup will be Malcolm. Melinda clapped her hands. Those are great names. She smiled at me. So, while the ladies are taking care of party stuff, would you mind training with my warriors? Phil asked me. I shrugged. Sure, Phil. I wouldn't mind kicking you again. Phil rolled his eyes. I'm pretty sure I kicked you last time. No, I kicked you, I argued back. You came close, and that was only because you needed Terry's help. I snorted. You know my dad could kick you too. Terry has never beaten me. My father-in-law looked me in the eyes. The two of us stared as a challenge between two alpha males. Fine, Phil. Let's see who the better warrior is. I smirked at him. Phil looked at Ian. Ian, let's show your brother-in-law how well Mackenzie's fight. Ian smirked at his father. Right, Dad. It's on. Try not to hurt my mate, Daddy, Gemma said to her father. My mouth fell open. Your daddy won't hurt me, I said to her. We'll see about that, she smiled. Gemma, you are supposed to be on my side. I frowned at her. Alpha Philip laughed. I'm afraid Gemma is a daddy's girl. He stood up from the table. Let's go get the warriors warmed up, Ian. I looked at Gemma. I'll see you later, love. I leaned over and kissed her. Okay, Cass. Have fun. I waved at her sister and mother. I'll see you ladies at the party later. Warriors. We get to train with King Cassius today. So you all better be on your A-game. Philip said to his pack. Be on the field in 10 minutes. He ordered, and then I followed him out of the dining room. Gemma's POV Cassius left the dining room with my father and brother. The warriors soon followed, grumbling about training. Some of them smiled at my mother, sister, and I as they walked by. Tiffany looked at a few of them with the hope of finding her mate. I felt a little sad for my sister. I patted her arm. You'll find him, Tiff. She turned to me and smiled. I hope you are right. My mother stood up from the table. Let's get started, she looked at me. Miss Susie can look after Nick in the pup room if you want, Gemma. I looked at my son. Do you want to stay with us and do boring stuff or go play with the other pups? Do they have cars? He asked, looking between his grandmother and me. My mother patted his head. Of course they have cars, Nicholas, she laughed. Okay, Mommy. I'll go play with cars. He smiled at me. I picked him up in my arms. Meet us in the common room, my mother said as I walked out of the dining room. I smiled at the various pack members as I walked towards the pup room. It was on the far end of the pack house. It was set up similar to the pup care building at the palace. Miss Susie was an older lady that cared for the pups too young for school while their parents worked. I walked into the brightly colored room, and the gray-haired woman who was talking to another younger she-wolf brightened when she saw me. Oh my goodness! Is that my little Gemma Mackenzie? She approached us as I set Nikki down. I had known the woman my whole life. She had been working in this room since before my siblings and I were born. She was older than my parents and sometimes told us stories about my grandparents. She stopped in front of me. You are positively glowing, she held her arms open, and I allowed her to pull me into a warm hug. Hello, Miss Susie. How are you doing today? I said brightly to her as the twins started to kick. I held my side as I got a hard kick in the ribs. She tilted her head. You have a feisty one there, I see. I have two feisty ones in there, I replied. Oh my! Twins? I should have guessed you would have twins. She held her hand over my belly. May I? I nodded, and she gently placed her hand on my belly, and one of the twins kicked her hand. Oh, strong ones indeed. Well, they are twin alphas with royal blood. She smiled brightly. That's right. Should I call you Queen Gemma, Your Majesty? I laughed. No, Miss Susie. It's still just Gemma to you. She leaned into me. You have always been such a sweet girl. The kingdom has needed a queen like yourself for some time. She squeezed my arm as Nikki ran by us, chasing a girl pup. Nikki, be nice, I called to him. We are playing tag, Mommy, he explained as the little girl tagged him. He giggled and ran after him. I am going to go help my mother set up for my sister's party, so I was wondering, of course, Nick will be fine here. I have been watching that pup since he was tiny, Miss Susie remarked. He has PTSD. He sometimes has episodes where he blacks out and screams because he doesn't know where he is. So if anything like that happens, please call me immediately. You can still mind link me. Miss Susie frowned slightly. I heard about what happened with Jeremy, she sighed sadly. I never thought he would ever do anything like that. It wasn't just him. Anyways, I'll keep a good eye on Nick. I hugged her again. Thank you, Miss Susie. I then walked out of the pup room and towards the common room. My mother was sitting on the couch with my sister, Cass's cousin, and beta female Ava, and two girls I hadn't seen in a long time. Ashley and Rachel were the daughters of Joe, my father's Delta, and Lou's little sisters. Ashley squealed and stood up. Gemma. She ran over to me, and I allowed her to hug me. Hey Ash, how is it going? I said as her sister Rachel ran over to hug me. Gemma, you look great, Rachel remarked. Ashley and Rachel still looked like twins despite being a year apart in age. They both had reddish-brown hair and green eyes. You two look great too, I said as I walked over to the couch and sat beside my mother. I was kicked in the ribs again, and I winced. I looked down at my belly. What is with you two today? My mother snorted. Mom, this hurts. She turned her blue eyes to me. I know, Gemma. She patted my belly and smiled. Oh, I hope your little Daisy gives you just as many headaches as you gave me. I rolled my eyes at her devious smirk. Daisy. I heard Rachel say from the couch across from us. You are naming one of them Daisy? I nodded. I felt guilty that Izzy and Terry didn't know the twins' names yet, but most of my pack knew. And the little boy will be Malcolm. Wow, Gemma. I still can't believe all these years growing up that you would end up the queen of werewolves, Ashley added. I laughed. It came as a shock to me too. Do we have to call you Majesty or Highness? She asked. No, I snorted. Here I am, just Gemma. My mother patted my arm. You were never just Gemma, dear. You are the daughter of one of the most highly respected alphas in the kingdom. It's no wonder the moon goddess chose you to be queen. I looked over to see my sister pout a little. Today is her birthday, and everyone is making a fuss over me. We should focus on Tiffany's party. What's the plan, Mom? My sister smiled at me and winked at her. I wanted today to be about her. She mouthed, "Thank you." My mother straightened up. "Well, I have the caterers coming later. Right now, we are going to hang flowers and streamers in the garden. The men will set up the stage for the DJ." She explained in her best Luna voice. "Oh, and balloons. I have lots of balloons that need to be blown up." We all stood up and made our way to the garden. For the next several hours, we decorated the garden with flowers and streamers, and lots of balloons. Exhausted, I sat down at one of the tables set up around the dance floor. I panted as I was making a flower out of ribbon. My sister walked over and set a bottle of water on the table. She sat beside me. "I can't believe you are out here doing Luna work without complaining." I shrugged. "It's for you, Tiff. You are my little sister, and I love you. I want you to have the best party." "That's not it, Gemma. I remember how much you balked at this kind of work. You wanted to be out training with the guys all of the time. Now you are perfectly okay with decorating." "Well, first off, I still wish I was out training. Trust me. But I promised Cassius I wouldn't train till after the twins are born. And it's not as bad as I thought it was. This is relaxing, actually." She snorted. "You have changed, Gemma. Tiff, I am the queen of werewolves. That's a lot of responsibility. I just don't want to lose my big sister." I placed my hand on her arm. "I am still your big sister, Tiffany. I have time when I don't have the weight of responsibility. Cassius is good about letting me be me. He has never once tried to stifle my spirit." I smiled at the thought. He is truly a good mate. I hope I get a mate like Cassius. "Me too, sis," I said to her. I prayed she got someone like Cassius and not like Casper. My mother walked over to us. "Are you all right, Gemma?" I nodded. "Yeah, I just had to sit down for a bit." "Well, we got lunch if you are hungry. The guys are still out training. So it'll be just us ladies." I stood up and waddled after my mother and sister to a table that had a bunch of food on it. It was sandwiches and salads. I spied a big chicken Caesar salad that looked good, so I dug into that. We all ate and chatted. After lunch, I went to the pup room to check on Nicky. He was happily eating lunch with his new friend. The same cute girl pup. I couldn't help but smile. I helped decorate for another hour, and the garden looked beautiful. My sister was going to have an epic party. I sighed and realized I missed my mate. "Mom, I am going to go watch the guys now." She sighed. "Well, I guess we are mostly done here. But no training." "I know. Cass would not be happy if I did." "Good." She smirked. I waved and sauntered towards the training field. I heard the grunts and growls of the warriors. I watched as they were all engaged in sparring. My father was sparring Cassius and my brother. They were all covered in bruises and blood. They must have been going at it for a while. None of them seemed tired, though. I waved at Cassius when his blue eyes flicked up to me. He smirked before punching my twin hard. I cringed as I watched my brother fall to the ground with a thud. "Hello, Gemma," the deep voice of my father's head trainer, Ronald, greeted me. I smiled at the gray-haired male beside me. Ron. I was hoping you would be out there sparring with the others. But I see the king put you out of commission, he remarked dryly. Yes, yes he did. I laughed at the trainer. Cassius and my father walked towards us as Ron shouted at the warriors, telling them to take a break. My mate was covered in sweat and bruises. He tried wrapping his arms around me, but I backed away. He frowned. No, you are all sweaty and smelly, I said to him. He ran his hand down my cheek and then kissed me. At least you let me kiss you. He then placed his hand on my belly, and the twins started kicking, causing me to wince. It feels like they are trying to break out. Cassius laughed softly. It won't be much longer. He frowned when he saw the pained look in my eyes. I am sorry, love. I placed my hand on his arm. It's all right. He removed his hand and then led me to the bleachers. We sat down as my father and brother stood in front of us. Your mate did a good job of whipping my warriors into shape. That's good to hear, I replied. And he almost beat me. It was a draw, Phil, Cassius said to my father. It wasn't fair because I had to fend off both you and Ian. My father shrugged. Well, if I recall, you and your father ganged up on me. And well, I still won. Cassius snorted. Keep telling yourself that, Alpha. My old friend Louis trotted over to us. Hey, Gems. Did you come to train with us? A low growl rumbled out of Cassius. Did you just call your queen, Gems? Cass, chill. Louis here is one of my oldest friends. I call him Lou sometimes, and he calls me Gem or Gems. Cassius looked Louis over. Anyways, no, she will not be training today. I patted my belly. The king put me out of commission, Lou. My friend laughed, and then some. I sure did, Cassius smirked proudly at himself. My father rolled his eyes. Let's get back to training. He growled lowly. What's wrong, Phil? Cassius asked my father. Nothing, Cassius. Training isn't over yet. Let's get back to it. He growled in response. Cassius rolled his eyes and kissed me before standing up. Okay, let's go, philosophy. Everyone back on the field. My father bellowed. The warriors immediately complied and went back out on the field. Take the lead, Ronald. The trainer nodded at his alpha and walked into the center of the field. Cassius stood beside my father as Ron gave the warriors orders. They all then cheered and went about sparring while some ran the obstacle course that was set up. I sat watching the training for some time. I stood up and paced because my legs started to hurt. I was looking out at the field as Cassius was running the obstacle course with my brother. I wasn't watching where I was going, and I collided with something hard and nearly fell backward. Strong arms kept me from falling. "OOP, careful there, Your Majesty," a familiar voice said with a familiar scent. I looked up into golden eyes. "Thank you, Paul." I smiled as he kept me from losing my balance. "I've become clumsy." "Well, thankfully, I was here to rescue you," he remarked. He looked me over. "You do look great, Your Majesty." I rolled my eyes. Call me Gemma. I mean, geez, we've seen each other. He laughed out loud. Yeah, we have. He winked. I shuddered slightly and backed out of his arms. So, are you still with Rosalind? He shook his head. No, I got tired of her cheating on me. That girl has problems. I snorted. No, I should have paid more attention to you, he sighed. I know you think I saw you only as a quick screw, but I did care. I mean, I do care deeply about you, Gemma. He leaned towards me. I gulped as he looked me over with lust in his eyes. Not again, I groaned in my head. I don't need another former boyfriend declaring he still had feelings for me. I knew deep down that Paul was nothing like Jeremy, and he wouldn't hurt me. It still made me nervous. I care about you too, Paul. I wasn't lying. I didn't care for him in the way he meant. He kept stepping towards me. He reached his hand out and moved a strand of my hair from my face. Can't have those pretty eyes obstructed. He smiled down at me. He stared at my lips. How I wish I could put my lips on yours. I do remember how good they tasted. How soft they were. His golden eyes peered into mine, and for a moment, I became lost in them. My heart began racing as I looked around. Cassius seemed occupied with the obstacle course to notice what was happening with Paul. I should have mind-linked my mate, but I needed to get out of this myself. Paul, you need to stop before Cassius sees you. He glanced out at the field. The king is occupied with trying to beat Ian. He won't notice one little kiss. I gulped as his strong arm wrapped around me, and I smacked his chest, trying to get away. He only tightened his grip, pressing my belly against him. It concerned me that he might hurt my pups. I growled as I struggled to get away from him. This was not my Paul. Oh, come on, Gemma. I won't hurt you. Just one kiss. He leaned down, and my heart raced as his lips lowered to mine. They brushed against mine, and I trembled. A thunderous roar-like growl exuding the power of the king shook the ground, and Paul released me and fell to his knees. I stumbled backward and fell onto my butt. In a second, Cassius was standing beside me. He lodged a murderous glare at Paul before softening his gaze at me. His strong arms picked me up, and he then helped me sit on the bleachers a few feet away. I looked around and saw every single warrior on their knees. Even my father was on their knees bowing. "Are you all right?" Cassius said to me. I nodded. He turned his glare to Paul, who was looking at the ground. "Did I just see you trying to kiss my mate?" Paul trembled but said nothing. "Answer me!" Cassius bellowed in his tone. Cassius's POV: I had spent a long but fun day training with Philip Mackenzie's pack. I considered it an honor as Zephyr Moon was highly regarded in the kingdom. Phil, being an imposing alpha, commanded a powerful pack. We sparred together, and even at his age, he was still strong and tough to take down. I almost had him when he tag-teamed with Ian. I was impressed by my brother-in-law as he was nearly as strong as his father. The two of them then ganged up on me, and we fought fiercely, drawing blood, and I felt my bones cracking from the impact. Phil was convinced he won, but I swear it was a draw. I let him have the victory for his pack. After the sparring, I just watched the pack training, and I was in awe. They trained very similarly to how my royal warriors trained. Their head trainer had served under my grandfather alongside Phil. After lunch, I was again sparring with Phil and Ian when her scent carried itself on the wind. I had to do my best to keep my attention on my opponents. She waved when I took a second to look at her. My beautiful queen glowed in the sunshine wearing her cute little dress that showed off her swollen belly. I smirked back at her as Ian charged me, and I punched him hard, and the future alpha of Zephyr Moon hit the ground hard. Gemma cringed seeing her twin fall. I saw the old trainer approach Gemma. And from her smile, I assumed they were merely catching up. I helped Ian to his feet. "Let's call it another draw," I said before walking towards my mate. I heard Phil scoff as he and Ian followed me towards Gemma. I held my arms open to pull Gemma into them, but she backed away. I frowned as Enoch whimpered in my head. She wrinkled her nose. I forgot how sweaty I was, not to mention I was also covered in blood and bruises. "No, you are all sweaty and smelly," she looked me up and down. I reached out to run my hand down her cheek, relishing the sparks. I then kissed her. "At least you let me kiss you," I said to her. I then placed my hand on her belly to feel my pups, and they responded. I felt terrible when I saw Gemma win CE as their kicks were quite strong. "It feels like they are trying to break out," the pain in her voice was evident. I laughed softly. "It won't be much longer." The pained look in her eyes made me frown again. I had caused my mate pain, and I needed to fix that. "I am sorry, love." She placed her soft hand on my arm. "It's all right." I removed my hand from her belly and then led her to the nearby bleachers. I sat down beside her as Phil and Ian stood in front of us. I bantered with my in-laws a bit. A male wolf trotted over to Gemma, and he smiled. "Hey, Gems. Did you come to train with us?" A low growl rumbled out of me. I didn't like him calling her such a casual name. "Did you just call your queen, Gems?" "Cass, chill. Louis here is one of my oldest friends," she said about the male. "I call him Lou sometimes, and he calls me Gem or Gems," she explained. That didn't make me feel much better. I looked at this Louis. Anyways, no, she will not be training today. She patted her belly. "The king put me out of commission." Louis laughed, and then some. I couldn't help but smirk at him. I sure did. That caused my father-in-law to roll his eyes and growl. "Let's get back to training." "What's wrong, Phil?" "Nothing, Cassius. Training isn't over yet." "Let's get back to it," Phil growled a response to me. I rolled my eyes at him and then kissed Gemma before standing up. "Okay, let's go, Phil," I said as he bellowed orders to his warriors. They all ran back out into the field as I stood beside Phil. His trainer Ronald started giving orders to the warriors. Some went back to sparring, while some ran around the large obstacle course that was set up on one side of the field. I kept glancing back at Gemma, making sure she was all right. I knew she was. I noticed her pacing and knew it was because her legs hurt from sitting too long. She often did that when we were working in the office. Ian walked over to me and patted my back. "Want to try the obstacle course?" I shrugged. Sure, why not? Race you. I smirked at him. You are so on, brother. He laughed as we ran over to the course. The course was quite challenging, and I thought we needed one like this for the royal warriors. I felt something and looked where Gemma was. I noticed the tall male warrior with golden eyes and nearly black skin. They appeared just to be talking. It made me a little uncomfortable because I knew she had slept with this male. Thinking she was all right, I returned my attention to the course. I was behind Ian but managed to catch up. We high-fived as we reached the end. Want to go again? He said while panting. I felt uneasiness and fear all of a sudden. I knew it had to be coming from Gemma. The end of the obstacle course was out of sight of the bleachers where she had been. I walked back towards the starting line, ignoring Ian calling to me. When Gemma finally came into view, my blood boiled. That brute Paul had her in a tight embrace, and even from this distance, I could see her struggling to get away from him. Enoch surged forward, and I had to fight to keep him from coming out. I got this, Enoch, I said to my angry wolf. That is touching our mate, Cassius, he growled. Then I saw red when I saw that bastard leaning in to kiss my mate. With the strength of my wolf, I summoned my king power, and a thunderous roar-like growl rumbled out of me. The growl shook the ground as every single warrior dropped to their knees. Even Phil and Ian dropped to their knees, unable to fight my power. I ran towards Gemma and Paul as he released her and dropped to his knees. Gemma fell backward and landed on her bottom. Within seconds I was standing beside her, and I turned all of my anger at Paul, who had his eyes looking at the ground. I looked down at Gemma, and my gaze softened as I helped her to her feet. I then carefully helped her to the bleachers. Are you all right? I asked her. She nodded. I turned my murderous gaze back on Paul. Did I just see you trying to kiss my mate? The trembling coward remained silent, which only fueled my anger. Answer me. I bellowed to him. He kept his head down but spoke. I am sorry, Your Majesty. I couldn't control myself. I snarled and took a threatening step towards him. What made you think it was okay to kiss my mate and your queen? I looked around me, and the entire pack was still on their knees, including Phil. I needed the Alpha to help me take care of this treacherous bastard. Everyone may rise, I said through the mind link to the pack. They all stood up, and Phil and Ian ran over to me. Paul rose to his feet but kept his head down. His Alpha glared at him while growling. What did you do, Paul? Alpha Philip growled in his tone. I am sorry, Alpha. I tried kissing the queen. My old feelings for her came to the surface, and I couldn't stop myself from wanting to taste her lips again. He gasped as I grabbed him by the neck. Even though he was taller than me, I still was stronger than him. He bent his knees as I squeezed harder on his neck. Cassius, don't kill him. Gemma was on her feet beside me. I was fighting Enoch and barely heard her. I felt her hand on my arm and looked into her violet eyes. I softened slightly but kept my hand on Paul's neck. I looked at Phil. What are you going to do about this insolence, Phil? The Alpha stepped forward and glared at Paul. I hate to kill him, Cassius. He is a good warrior. But trying to kiss Gemma and then causing her to fall in her condition is a serious offense. I did not mean to hurt her. Paul pleaded. I love her. I would never hurt her. My hand tightened the grip on his neck. Choose your words wisely as you are on the edge of death. I hissed dangerously at him. Cassius, Gemma yelled at me using her queen tone. I felt the power behind it, but it didn't affect me. Just like my tone didn't affect her no matter how much power I put behind it. I looked at my mate and noted her pleading eyes. I dropped the brute from my hands. The punishment is up to you, Alpha, I said to my father-in-law. He looked at his daughter, who was grasping my arm. Are you all right, Gemma? She nodded. I am fine, Dad. I hurt a bit, though. Phil turned to Paul. I am very disappointed in you, warrior. But I must punish you. You will not go anywhere near my daughter, make sure you don't go near either one of my daughters. You are to be confined to the dungeon for 3 days with no food. Then afterward, you will be demoted from your position as battalion leader. He explained to Paul using his alpha tone. Phil snapped his fingers. Take him to the dungeon. He ordered 2 of his warriors. I am sorry to have disappointed you, Alpha, Paul sounded apologetic in his tone. He looked at Gemma and started to say something, but Phil and I both growled, stopping him. The warriors then dragged him towards the dungeon. Gemma then gripped my arm tighter and winced. I looked down, and she had her eyes closed while holding her belly. Immediately my heart raced. Gemma. She shook her head. It's nothing. It don't look like no hing. I said as I scooped her up bridal style in my arms. Cassius, don't make a big deal out of it. It was just a bit of pain. Put me down, she protested. Take me to your doctor, Phil, I said to Gemma's father. I looked at Gemma. You are getting checked out. You hit the ground hard. Cass, it's not necessary. Don't argue with me, Gemma. I nearly shouted with more anger than I intended, which caused Gemma to shrink away from me in my arms. I sighed. I am sorry, love. I didn't mean to yell at you. Please just let the doctor check you out for my peace of mind. She snuggled against my chest and nodded. Phil led me to a building besides the large pack house. Zephyr Moon Pack Hospital was scrawled on a glass door leading into the brick building. A male doctor was waiting for us as we walked into the clean and well-lit lobby. This way, Your Majesty. He beckoned me down the hall. He led me into a room and pointed to the bed. Just set her down there. I set Gemma on the bed and stood protectively beside her. The doctor sighed. Your Majesty, I need room to examine her. Phil patted my back. Cass, Dr. Mitchell will take good care of Gemma. I stepped back enough to allow the doctor's room to look over my mate. How do you feel, Gemma? He asked her casually. I told my mate that I am all right. I just hurts. Gemma told him. The doctor snorted. Same old Gemma, hey. He laughed. I had to suppress a growl as it seemed the doctor wasn't serious. Phil squeezed my shoulder. Cassius, I assure you that Dr. Mitchell knows what he is doing. He has been my pack doctor since I became Alpha. I relaxed slightly as the doctor continued talking to Gemma. He looked at me. I think she may have just bruised her tailbone. I would like to keep her here a few hours to keep an eye on her. Will I still be able to attend Tiffany's party? Gemma asked him. When does that start? Dr. Mitchell asked Phil. Around 6 or so, Phil replied. The doctor looked at Gemma. Okay, just stay here and rest until then and then take it easy. All right. She nodded at him. Okay. No starting mosh pits or intense head banging. The doctor smirked, causing Gemma to laugh. Take all of my fun away, why don't you? She snickered. The doctor nodded at us. I'll be back in a bit to check on her. He then walked out. I sat on the chair beside the bed and grasped Gemma's hand. I am sorry about Paul, she said quietly to me. Her eyes downcast. I stroked her palm with my thumb. I heard Phil sigh. I'll see you both at the party. I have pack matters to attend to. He stepped forward and kissed the top of Gemma's head. Rest up, sweetie. He nodded at me and then left the room. Gemma, you didn't lead Paul on, did you? She shook her head. We were just talking, and then all of a sudden, he started talking about his feelings for me. Then I knew he was about to kiss me, so I tried backing away, and he grabbed me and held me tight. I should have been able to fight him. But I just couldn't. Tears welled up in her eyes. He could have hurt my babies. Love, I said as I placed a finger under her chin. Look at me, love. You did nothing wrong. This keeps happening. My old boyfriends keep showing up trying to kiss me. She trailed off and sobbed. Why did I have to be such a... You were never, Gemma. You are my beautiful, rebellious queen. I wouldn't change you for anything. Your past boyfriends are jealous that they let such a jewel like you go. I don't blame them. She looked up at me through her tears. I wiped off her cheeks. I never thought Paul would try something like that. He always seemed so bound to his duty. I didn't think Jeremy would have turned as he did. Why am I such a judgment of character? I laughed. You love me, don't you? Well, I like to think I am a pretty good guy. You are. You are the best guy. I squeezed her hand. Those dumbasses are your past, Gemma. I am your present and your future. Don't worry about them. She nodded. Did I make a mistake again? You know, letting Paul live. No, I think he learned his lesson, unlike Jeremy. My father will keep him on a tight leash from now on. I smiled at that thought. I do not doubt that. Your father runs a tight ship. There was a knock on the door as Luna Melinda walked in with Nick on her hip. Mommy, Daddy. Our pup squealed as his grandmother set him down. He ran over to us, and I pulled him onto my lap. What happened, Mommy? I had a little accident, baby. She reached for Nick, and he crawled off my lap and onto the bed. She pulled him to her chest, and he put his hands on her belly. Are you okay? She stroked his little arm. Yes, I am fine. Phil told me what happened with Paul. Melinda stepped towards us. He's lucky I wasn't there because I would have slit his throat. I raised an eyebrow at my mother-in-law. Really? She smirked. Are you all right, Gemma? Yeah, Mom. I'm fine. Dr. Mitchell is just having me lay here for a few hours. But I just hurts. She explained. Nick laughed when she said but. Mommy said but. He giggled. Well, take it easy. I'll see you guys at the party. Melinda snorted. Okay, Mom, Gemma responded to her mother. The Luna then left the room. It was just me with my mate and our pups. She placed her hand on her belly. Nick lay his head on her chest. Should we watch some TV while we sit here? I suggested. I picked up the TV remote and turned it on. I turned the channels until we all agreed to watch SpongeBob. I propped my feet up on the bed still and relaxed. I hadn't showered since this morning, so I knew I stunk like sweat and blood. But Gemma and Nick hadn't seemed to notice. I clasped her hand, and we all silently watched the cartoon. A couple of hours later, Dr. Mitchell came in to check on Gemma. He gave her the all clear, and we decided to go up to her room to shower and get ready for Tiffany's party. Gemma's POV. I stood in front of the mirror in my old room. I had finished getting ready for my little sister's birthday party. I was wearing a lavender dress that hung to my ankles. It wasn't fancy, but it was comfortable and fit my body nicely and not too tight around my belly. Cassius stepped out of the bathroom wearing a pair of dark blue jeans and a dark red button-up shirt. His brown hair was slicked back, and I couldn't help but stare. He smiled at me and walked over to me. He wrapped his arms around me and kissed my lips. You are drooling, love. That's because you are delicious, my king. He laughed and kissed me again. You. We were interrupted by Nicky standing a few feet away watching us. He had been playing with his cars while I was getting dressed. Cassius released me and stalked over to Nicky and picked him up, and my son giggled while kicking his little legs. What are you doing, you little rascal? Nicky just kept giggling wildly while his father tickled him. Stop it, Daddy! He laughed. Or what? Cassius laughed along with him and blew raspberries on Nicky's belly. My son was having a great time. There was a knock on the door. I answered it, and my brother was standing there with Esther. Come on, sis. The party is starting, and Mom wants us all there now. Ian explained. Okay, Ian, we'll be right down, I replied to my brother. You look nice, Esther, I told my brother's mate. She was wearing black jeans and a flowery blouse, and her brown hair was braided and slung on her shoulder. Her brown eyes sparkled as she held onto my brother. Thank you, Gemma. You look nice too, she smiled as she and my brother walked away. I looked back at Cassius, and he had Nicky on his shoulders. Are you two clowns ready to go? After you, babe. He smirked. I picked up Tiffany's gifts, and we walked out of my old room and down the hall. Cassius kept having to duck the ceiling to keep Nicky from hitting his head. My son was still giggling his little head off when we reached the ground floor of the pack house. The common room was quiet as we entered. We walked out of the pack house and went to the garden. My parents and siblings were waiting beside the stage that had been set up. Don't you look elegant, Gemma? My mother smiled at me. I hugged her. Thanks, Mom. Put the gifts over there on the table, she pointed to a table stacked with gifts for Tiffany. I smiled at my sister. She was wearing a short pink baby doll dress. Her blonde hair was in a tight slick ponytail. Today she no longer looked like my little sister but an elegant woman. I set her gifts on the table and waddled back towards my family. My father took a deep breath and clapped his hands. "Let's get this shindig started," he said and walked onto the stage with my mother at his side. The assembled pack members immediately quieted down and looked at their Alpha and Luna. "Good evening Zephyr Moon Pack. It makes me happy to see you all here to help us celebrate the 18th birthday of my youngest child," he gestured to Tiffany, and she walked onto the stage and clasped our father's hand. "Tiffany Nicole Mackenzie. You have grown into a beautiful, graceful woman. You make me proud to be your father." My sister smiled at him, and he looked at the pack. "Let us rejoice and enjoy this beautiful party your Luna has planned." The pack clapped, and they walked off the stage, and the DJ started up the music. I had to refrain from cringing at the pop music that poured out of the speakers. I hugged my sister again, then she disappeared into the crowd to greet her friends. I smelled the delicious food set up buffet style. Cassius and I found a table, and he waited with Nikki while I went to get plates. There were lots of kid-friendly finger foods for Nikki, while I got myself some steak tips and potatoes with some fried chicken and other things for myself. After I sat down, Cassius went to get his food. I dug in. A moment later, Ian and Esther stood in front of the table. "Can we sit with you guys?" Esther asked. "Of course you can," I replied, and she and Ian sat. Esther only had a few things on her plate while Ian mainly had meat on his. Esther looked at my large amount of food. "Wow, that's a lot of food." I nodded. "Yeah, growing twin royal alphas take a lot of food." She laughed and looked at Ian. "I can't wait till Ian and I have pups of our own." My brother stiffened. "There is no rush for that, dear," he said to her. Cassius returned to the table with a big plate and a bottle of beer. "Hey, Ian, Esther." He nodded at them. "Ian, do you not want pups of your own?" I asked my brother. "It's not that, Gemma. It's just I don't see the need to rush into it. I am only 20, and I already have an heir." He nodded at Nikki, and he looked at Esther with loving eyes. "I think I want to settle into being alpha first before we start trying for our pups," Ian eyed me. "Not all of us feel the need to rush right into having pups." I glared at him. I wanted to wait too, but I trailed off and looked at Cassius. I didn't know if I could tell my brother why we had to have pups right away. Cassius nodded at me, seeming to get what I was thinking. "There is a little-known law that says I have to have an heir by the time I turn 25, or I lose the crown," he explained. Ian's eyes widened. "How come we have never heard that?" "It's not knowledge that is commonly known outside the royal family," Cassius said while sipping his beer. "And you just told us," Esther chuckled nervously. "Won't you get in trouble for that?" Cassius snorted. "Sweetheart, I am the king. There is no one I answer to. Except the elders. I can still override their decisions," Cassius retorted. "Who would the crown pass to if you lost it?" Esther asked. I looked at Cassius as he thought for a second. "Well, before I ripped his head off, it would have gone to my cousin Felix. But now I honestly don't know. He shrugged. Perhaps his son that he supposedly has. But he is an infant. But we don't have to worry about that, I interjected. We have 2 heirs on the way. I smiled as Cassius touched my belly, causing the twins to start kicking. I winced. Ugh, they sure love kicking when you touch my belly. He pulled his hand away. Sorry, love. They just recognize their father already, I smiled at him. I sighed as I now had to run to the ladies' room to empty my bladder. I'll be right back, guys. Cassius's pups are using my bladder for a plaything. I struggled to get up. Cassius helped me to my feet, and then I waddled away. I went into the pack house and the common room bathroom. After relieving myself, I walked out into the common room, thinking it was empty, but there was Rosalind and her posse. They were talking in hushed tones and stopped when they spied me. Hello, ladies, I said to them with a fake smirk. Enjoying the party? Rosalind flicked her hair. It's boring, she sneered. It would be better if Paul wasn't locked up. Why would you care anyway? He said you two broke up. She folded her arms. Whatever. If you hadn't tricked him, then he would be with me tonight, not locked up in the dungeon. I rolled my eyes at her. Yes, I tricked him. That was entirely my plan, to have him try to kiss me so I could have him locked up. I snorted and started to walk away. You are even more deluded than I thought, Rosalind. Gemma. She shouted after me. I turned to her and smirked. That's Queen Gemma to you, I said in my queen tone, causing Rosalind to stiffen and bare her neck to me. I then walked away, leaving her fuming while her friends snickered. Outside I found Cassius standing by the dance floor with Ian. Where is Nikki? Oh, he is off playing with a cute little girl pup. I smirked. Oh really? I think our son has a little crush. I laughed and looked around for my son. I saw him sitting by a flower bed with the same little girl from earlier. Another she-wolf was standing nearby. I recognized her as an Omega named Linda that worked in the kitchen. She bowed her head to me. Is that your little girl? I asked her. Yes, Your Majesty. She replied. Linda, we grew up together. You can just call me Gemma. Sorry. It's habit being an Omega and all, she sighed. My daughter seems to have taken a liking to your little boy. I hope that is all right. I shrugged. It's perfectly all right. I want my son to grow up treating everyone right. No matter their status. What is your daughter's name? April. Her father is out on border patrol right now. Oh, cool. Who is her father, if you don't mind me asking? He is Eric Walters. I laughed. Ah yes. I beat him up a few times in training. He is a good fighter, though. I don't mind watching your pup while you enjoy the party, Linda offered. Oh, I hope that won't be too much trouble, I said to her. I'll be over there by Cassius if you need me. I pointed to my mate, who was still talking to my brother. She nodded. Enjoy yourself. I shuffled back to my mate and looked out at the dance floor. My sister was dancing with her friends Ashley and Rachel. A few of the unmated warriors were eager to join them, but their alpha was on the opposite side of the dance floor, glaring at them with his arms folded. A slow song came on, and Cassius clasped my hand. "Shall we dance, love?" It wasn't a song I liked, but I shrugged. "Sure," I said to my mate. I saw Tiffany dancing with Louis while my brother was with Esther. I leaned my head on Cassius's shoulder as we moved slowly to the music. I relished the sparks I felt when our hands touched. Do the sparks ever fade? I mused. Not when the mates are madly in love with each other, he replied next to my ear. Or at least that's what my dad told me. Well, I am madly in love with you, Cassius Fury. He laughed softly. And I am madly in love with you, Gemma Fury. He touched his forehead to mine, and our eyes peered into each other. The song ended, and we just stood there looking at each other, forgetting we were in the middle of the dance floor. The world disappeared as Cassius kissed me. My legs felt weak as he held me up. Our kiss deepened for a moment, and then I heard a throat clearing. Would the king and queen mind getting off the dance floor so Tiffany can open her gifts? My father said through the microphone. Cassius growled lowly and looked at my father. I rolled my eyes. Sorry, Daddy. We walked off the dance floor hand in hand as my mother placed a chair in the middle of the floor, and Tiffany sat down as several pack members carried the table with her gifts to the center. Tiffany squealed happily as she began to open her presents. I sat on Cassius's lap on a chair on the edge of the dance floor. He held me tight as the Omega Linda brought Nikki over to us. Thank you, Linda, I said to her. She bowed to Cassius and Nikki sat on the ground with April. Is that your new friend, Nick? Cassius asked him. She's my girlfriend, Daddy. Nikki proclaimed. Linda was standing behind the pups and laughed. I indicated an empty chair beside Cassius and me. You can sit down with us, I told her. She shook her head. That wouldn't be proper. Linda, it's okay. No need to be formal at a party. She sighed and sat on the chair. Cassius smiled at her. My boy sure likes your little girl. Linda trembled slightly hearing the king talk to her. Why yes, your majesty. No need to be nervous, he said to her gently. Sorry, I have never been this close to royalty before. He laughed. We are just like everyone else. I am just an Omega. Basically, a nobody compared to the king. Cassius looked her over. Nobody is nobody, Omega. Linda, I said quietly in his ear. Linda, he said to her. Omegas are valued members of our society. I know you may not see it. But I see all of your efforts. That's why I don't tolerate the mistreatment of Omegas. I don't tolerate any of your being treated like slaves. Does Alpha Mackenzie treat you guys well? Yes, Your Majesty, Linda replied. Good to hear. I would hate to have to beat him if he mistreated any of you, he winked at Linda. She blushed slightly and looked away from him. I elbowed him. You just like beating my father no matter what. My sister was calling me from the floor. She held up the autographed photo of her favorite singer I had gotten for her. Oh my goddess, Gemma! How did you get Alicia to sign this? She ran over to me. Her favorite pop singer Alicia Ivy turned out to be a werewolf, so it didn't take much to persuade her to autograph a picture for my sister. She is a wolf, and Ainsley knows her, so I called her and asked for an autographed photo. Tiffany's eyes lit up. How does Ainsley know her? They went to school together, Cassius interjected. Wait, you know her too? Tiffany said to him. Oh my goddess, I need to meet her. She is my absolute favorite after Taylor Swift, of course. Cassius chuckled. I'll ask Ainsley about it. They still keep in touch as far as I know. Tiffany leaned down to kiss Cassius's cheek. You are the best brother-in-law. She clapped and ran back to her seat. That didn't bother you? He asked me while rubbing his cheek. Nah. I'm not threatened by my sister kissing your cheek, Cass, I told him and looked back out at my sister. She had opened the gift that Nikki had made for her at Pup Care. It looked like a rock made of clay, but Nikki insisted that it was a pony. Nikki, this is such a pretty rock. Nikki ran over to his aunt. It's a pony, Auntie Tiffy. He told her with a slight frown. Tiffany leaned down to hug him. She had gotten a lot of jewelry and candy with some stuffed animals. Cassius had gotten her a cute stuffed rabbit. When she was done, she stood up. Thank you, everyone, for my gifts. They are all great. I love you all. I stood up from Cassius's lap and walked over to help my mother clean up the floor while the music started up again. The music then stopped abruptly as we heard howls coming from the woods. Rogues! My father warned in the microphone. Melinda, get everyone to the safe room. He told my mother. There was quiet chaos as my mother stood up straight and started barking orders. My father ran over to Cassius with my brother. I was standing next to my sister and son when Cass came over. There is a huge group of rogues heading this way. They have already taken out some of your father's guards. I gulped, hoping that Eric wasn't one of them. Are you going to help my father? Cassius smirked. Of course I am. Get in the safe room. He leaned down to kiss me. I wanted to be out fighting for my pack, but I was not in any condition to do so. So my job was to help my mother keep those that couldn't fight safe. Please be careful, I said to him. I'll be fine, love. He said as he started unbuttoning his shirt. He ran over to my father, and then they ran off into the woods towards the howling. I sighed and started helping my mother gather the omegas, pups, and other non-fighters. We got into a safe room, an underground bunker large enough to hold hundreds of people. I helped my mother close the door, and then we sat and waited for the all clear. I prayed to the moon goddess that Cassius and everyone else would be all right. Nikki sat beside me, playing with his little friend April. Linda sat close to us while my sister was next to our mother. Then I cried out as I felt a sharp pain in my chest. There was a flash of the battlefield as Cassius fell to the ground. Leonora howled in my head. Cassius is hurt. I gasped out and stood to try and open the door. My mother had to stop me. Gemma, you can't go out there yet. But Mom, I cried. Cassius needs me. She grabbed my arms and glared into my eyes. Cassius needs you to be safe. Now you have to stay here. I sniffled as tears fell down my cheeks. I felt more pain coursing through my body, and I fell to my knees and clutched my chest. He's been poisoned in the heart with silver. Leonora whimpered, and my heart shattered. I sobbed from the pain as I felt my mate's life draining from him. I have to get out there, I screamed as more pain coursed through me. My mother was beside me, trying to console me as my vision became blurry. I love you, Gemma, Cassius's voice said in my head weakly. Hold on, Cassius, I replied to him. Please, goddess, don't take my Cassius from me. I pleaded with her right before blacking out. Cassius's POV after Philip had warned the pack about rogues, I kissed my mate goodbye and ran into the woods to help the warriors take down these rogues. Ian and Phil were beside me as their warriors gathered. Ian, take Gamma group to the east of the rogues. I'll take the west. He looked at me. Can you go with Ian? I nodded. Yes, I replied. Let's go. Phil bellowed, and we finished taking off our clothes and shifted into our wolves. 3 giant black wolves lead the warriors into the trees. I followed Ian's smaller black wolf, Leopold. We smelled the rogues before we found them. I heard their growls as they were already engaged with the border guards. Kill him, Cassius, my father-in-law told me through the mind link. Like a good son-in-law, I obeyed and looked over at Ian's wolf, and we seemingly nodded and went after the rogues. Some of Phil's guards were already slaughtered, so I went after the rogues with added ferocity. I ripped out several throats in what seemed to be seconds. I let Enoch have control as he barely gave the rogues time to think about what was about to happen before ripping them apart. I don't think all of these are rogues, I heard Ian say to me. I sniffed the air, and their stench told me some were most likely not rogues or hadn't been rogue for long. Should I keep a couple of them alive? I asked both Ian and Phil. I looked over to see Ian ripping a few more apart without an answer. A large and strong rogue managed to scratch my shoulder, making it bleed. Okay, prepare to die, Enoch snarled as he jumped on the rogue and snapped its neck like at a twig. The fighting started to die down, and I saw Phil's graying wolf trot over to me. I think that's most of them, he declared with hardly a scratch on his wolf. I smelled a familiar scent in the air and turned to look for it. It was a female scent I knew well as a female scream broke the momentary silence. I ran towards it. I saw my former lover Olivia being dragged along by a pair of rogues. I shifted back into my human form. Olivia! She screamed and looked at me. I'm sorry, Cassie. She whined. It had been so long since I had last seen her. I had forgotten her since Gemma came into my life. What is going on, Olivia? I growled as I stepped towards her. The rogues holding her tightened their hold. They think I am your mate and are threatening to kill me unless you give up the crown. I snorted and looked at the rogues. Kill her. She isn't my mate. I heard a click just behind me, and I turned to see Olivia's brother Joshua holding a gun on me. I stepped towards him, and he pulled the trigger. The bullet that hit my chest was silver and laced with something as I felt a sharp pain along with burning as I fell to my knees. Blood spilled out of my wound as I looked up at Joshua. He spat on the ground. You shouldn't have trapped us over, Cassius. He snarled, and pointed the gun at my head ready to take another shot. Then I watched as Phil's black wolf tackled him to the ground and ripped his head off. My vision began to blur as I lay on the ground. "Hold on, son," I heard Phil saying to me. The pain coursed through my body, and I know I yelled out. Enoch howled in my head. I couldn't see what happened to Olivia or the other rogues as my vision blacked out. Phil was yelling at his pack as I saw my life pass through my head. I felt Gemma's sorrow through our link as I felt my life fading. "I love you, Gemma," I mind-linked her right before my world went black. In the darkness, I walked. Completely alone with no destination in mind. I heard nothing and felt nothing. Where was I going and why? Then there was a flash of bright light as I opened my eyes. I was looking up at a brightly lit ceiling. I was being carried on a stretcher in a hallway. Then I heard screaming, hysterical screaming. "Cassius!" I knew it was Gemma. But I couldn't move. I couldn't speak, and then everything went black again. The darkness enveloped me, leaving me alone again. My eyes opened again to hear her screaming for me again. I felt the pain of the poison in my body as I tried looking towards my hysterical mate. My body was convulsing. I caught a flash of a hysterical Gemma in the room being restrained by her father. Then I fell into darkness again. Just darkness and utter silence. I felt no pain. Nothing. Then slowly I opened my eyes, but I was not in a hospital room. I was in the ever-familiar field of daisies. But my children were nowhere to be found. There was only silence as a shadow fell over me. I turned to the source, to the large black wolf staring me down. "Enoch." The wolf seemingly nodded at me. "We are alive, Cassius. Thanks to Leonora," he said as a pure white wolf joined him. She stared me down as she nudged her mate. "Enoch." The wolf seemingly nodded at me. "We are alive, Cassius. Thanks to Leonora," he said as a pure white wolf joined him. She stared me down as she nudged her mate. "Time was on our side this time, Cassius," Leonora said to me. "Just rest, and everything will be all right," she told me before she and Enoch ran into the trees. I turned towards the field to see my life standing before me. Gemma with our pups running about laughing and playing. "Come play with us, Daddy," Nick said to me while holding one of the twins on his back. I ran towards them, and there was a large flash of light. Momentarily I was blinded and then realized I was lying in a bed staring at the ceiling. I felt her hand squeezing mine from the sparks that coursed through my body. "Cassius," I heard her beautiful voice say as I moved my head to look into the most beautiful violet eyes I had ever seen. She leaned down to kiss me. Tears fell from her eyes as I returned the kiss. "Gemma," I replied hoarsely to her. "You came back to me," she cried as she rested her forehead against mine. "Always," I replied as she lay on the bed beside me. She placed my hand on her belly. "They miss their daddy." I felt my pups kicking, and all at once, reality set in when the door of the room burst open.